Welcome back to the couch. I'm Des.
And I'm Jay.
And this is our Aquaman review. Coming up next.
On the couch with those two bald guys.
Aquaman is a 2018 film based on DC Comics and the first feature film centered around the character.
It was directed by James Wan and stars Jason Momoa as the title character, as well as Amber Heard, Patrick Wilson, Willem Dafoe, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Nicole Kidman.
Arthur Curry, the Aquaman, is heir to the underwater realm of Atlantis and must find the courage to step forward and lead his people against his half-brother Orm, who seeks to unite the 7 underwater kingdoms to combat the surface world. Alright, man, so we're talking Aquaman. This is my first time seeing it, but you got an opportunity to check it out before I did.
Yeah, we did an immediate reaction review, which unfortunately you couldn't be there for. This time I didn't know, now that the hype's worn off, what I think about it, so let's talk a little bit about it and find out. The story starts out before Aquaman's even born. We've got his Atlantean mother who comes up ashore and meets his human father, and they fall in love, and they have this baby that's the heir to the throne of Atlantis and wasn't supposed to be born because he's a half-breed, he's half-human. So the Atlanteans find her, and then a big explosion happens. So then we jump to the future that kicks off our story, and we now have Aquaman and his dad, and they don't know exactly what happened to his mother, but they assume she was killed by the Atlanteans.
There was a ton of fun moments in this movie. There's several scenes throughout the course of this film that I just kind of had this half grin on my face when I watched it. And one of those fun scenes was when Aquaman was a aqua boy, I should say. He was a younger child, and he demonstrates his ability to communicate with fish. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of them demonstrating what Aquaman was capable of doing.
He's not purposefully using his powers here, but they do manifest, and I love when the fish come behind him to his rescue, and the shark's trying to save him from the bullies. There's been so many jokes over the years about Aquaman's powers. He just talks to fish. He uses that power multiple times throughout the film. So I love that they took that seriously and it's not a joke anymore, because I've been a fan of Aquaman a long time and I've heard that for years. Oh, he's just a stupid character. He talks to fish. And it's like, no, there's so much more to this character.
And did you know I had the ability to talk to fish myself?
Oh, you do?
I do. Fried fish right before I eat it. Your days are numbered, buddy.
What'd you think of the Black Manta character and his dad?
I thought the character was awesome. The casting was brilliant. They couldn't pick 2 better actors to play both of those roles.
I've seen Michael Beach in other things, but I believe his name's Yahya Abdul-Mateen playing Black Manta. Excellent. He just brings a lot of emotional weight to this guy, because this character, in all honesty, the Black Manta character really didn't even need to be in the film. You could take out every single part with Black Manta and the film is still exactly the same. So as far as coming from a filmmaking point of view, it's probably not the best storytelling, but if you're gonna put stuff in a movie just to set up a sequel, I've never seen it done better. They go and hijack this submarine and they kill someone immediately. And then later, maybe 5 minutes later, when Aquaman shows up to put a thorn in their side, his father dies, and I actually felt bad for the guy. But he just killed somebody 5 minutes ago. How are they making me feel anything for this guy like this? I thought it was really well done.
In addition to the emotional weight that the actor brought to the character, I would also add that he brought a certain level of physicality to the action sequences, and it was the perfect counterbalance to Jason Momoa's physicality.
I really like how they give Aquaman a Superman-type intro. So you have Aquaman lifting up the sub, and then he jumps up on top of it. It's very Superman to me. But he had enough personality differences. He drinks a lot. Superman wouldn't drink or whatever. He lets Black Manta's father die. I think Superman would have probably saved him and then brought him straight to the police or something, but he would have saved him.
Right.
And Aquaman later feels no regret for doing that, which I thought was really cool, and another way that separates him from Superman. So I guess what I'm saying is I like how they treated him with respect, but then he just wasn't a Superman clone either. His personality was very different.
He had that hard exterior, but once you got past that scene in the beginning of the film where the guys were asking for the selfies, it was the perfect example of that. You know, get a few beers in him and the lighthearted side of him comes out, and he's just one of the bros, you know?
All right, let's do this.
Don't touch me.
Right, that's exactly right. I'm gonna go down here.
There we go. Everybody smile.
First, he's like, oh my gosh, why do I have to do this?
Just get this over with.
Yeah, and then by the end, he's just having a good old time with him. I thought that was great. So this is pretty much a fish out of water story. Oh no. But it is. It's a hero's journey. We've got an Aquaman who thinks his mother's been killed, hates the Atlanteans for it, and doesn't want anything to do with them. And Mera shows up again, and he just doesn't want to be bothered. I really like how Mera's got control of the water. They had different powers and they used them both separately and also together to the betterment of the story.
They had a really great dynamic between the two of them. There was a lot of witty back and forth, and it didn't seem like one was one up in the other. They took turns one up in each other. It was really cool.
Pretty much anything with them. Even in the trailers, I thought, okay, this could get a little too cheeseball. But it worked.
One thing that kind of threw me off a little bit about Mera herself was the whole Ronald McDonald hair she had going on. I wasn't a big fan of it. It was just too cartoony. I mean, the whole film is kind of Saturday morning cartoons for me. It's kind of just entertaining, sitting there grinning, enjoying what you're watching on television, that kind of thing. But the hair just... You didn't need to be that red.
It's a very enjoyable movie, and it is a popcorn movie, but not in a Michael Bay stupid way. But as far as her hair, yeah, if you look at what they did in Justice League, I think that was the better balance, because I think what James Wan's trying to do here, he's pulling the look of Mera right off the page and lifting it and putting it right in the movie.
Exactly. The contrast with the green suit and the extra red hair, it's just too much, though.
Yeah, so the Saturday morning cartoon thing is actually perfect, I think, because that's exactly what it looks like. And so it's page to film, and I think it doesn't quite work. It's a little jarring and a little silly looking, I think, sometimes. But she was great. I thought Amber Heard was great.
She was perfect. The cast overall, I thought, was exceptional.
It's a good time, since we're talking about the cast, to bring up Patrick Wilson. I'm a really big Patrick Wilson fan. I've seen most of his movies, I think. I really like him in The Conjuring and things. He's very versatile.
He's worked with James Wan a lot, too, hasn't he?
Yeah, both Conjuring films were James Wan, and he's really good in those. I've never seen him play a role quite like Orm, the Ocean Master. He's got many reasons to be angry, and they're all believable. He doesn't like his half-brother Aquaman because of his threat to the throne and the fact that he even exists. It makes him angry. I get that. That makes sense. Eventually, his fiancée, Mera, ends up leaving him, betraying him, so there's that. He had to put his own mother to death, or, at least sentence her to death. He hates what the surface dwellers are doing to the ocean. So he has all these reasons to hate everybody and start a war. And I feel they're all believable. It's not just evil for being, evil's sake, villain for being a villain's sake.
Right. The character itself, it reminded me a lot of Killmonger from Black Panther. I just think he was a little less fleshed out. It's just a gut feeling that I have. I can't really point to anything specific. I just wanted a little bit more as far as motivation, because to me he felt like just spoiled kid brother.
So let's go from character, costumes, looks, and things to effects. I thought the effects were top notch. Maybe a little jarring at first when Dolph Lundgren's character shows up, Mira's father. His hair is moving around as it would in the ocean, but I thought it was a little goofy, maybe because he has pink hair on top of it. But you get adjusted to it very quickly, I thought. Once they get into their conversation, him and Orm are talking, you forget it's even weird. The
effects overall were awesome. It contributed heavily to that Saturday morning cartoon feel, because everything just pops out at you.
It's extremely over the top, but
very colorful.
In a Thor Ragnarok way, I think, though. It's acceptable. It's not Thor Ragnarok as far as the humor. It's not funny like that. But it definitely feels like this is DC doing Thor, because it's just, there's giant creatures.
Sea creatures! Help me! Head towards the mainland!
It's making fun of itself.
I don't know if I would personally say it's making fun of itself, but I get that. At the very least, for me, it doesn't care. It's like, this is the source material. We don't care how goofy it is. We're doing it. I can see why this film was delayed for as long as it was, because they definitely took their time to make these water effects. This was a brand new thing. No one had ever done anything like this before. It was great to see it actually come to fruition and look as good as it did.
Some of the CG that we got, I thought it was a big step up from what I'd seen previously. And even some of the suit design was kind of cool too, like how they had the little almost lobster looking claw kind of thing.
And I also liked with the suits, like when they would get attacked, how the hose would get pulled out and water would go shooting around everywhere. It looked very unique.
So we have Orm talking with Mira's father, or the leader of the Zebel faction.
Yeah, there's multiple factions of underwater people.
Orm is basically down there trying to unify them all together again and convince them to join forces to invade the surface dwellers, right? And right in that moment, wouldn't you know it, right on cue, a submarine comes in and crashes, big explosion. Who would have saw that coming?
You may sit on the throne of Atlantis, but you claim to it as weak. How can you possibly hope to unite the Empire? My mother's bastard has never even been to Atlantis. His loyalty is to the
I'm not really a big fan of Lundgren. I mean, he's fun to watch, I guess. But he was actually pretty good in this. I was glad to see the character when this attack happens with the submarine. It just seemed immediately very obvious this is some kind of staged event. This is too well timed. How can he not realize? But come to find out later in the story, I love his daughter Mira approaches him about it, basically says to him, how could you not see this for what it is? This is odd. This is
Calls
too...
him out.
But don't you find the timing of all of this a bit convenient? But you wouldn't be that gullible, would you? You want this war too, don't you?
It is past time the surface dwellers learn their place in the world. If this is how it must be done, then so be it.
They gave her father depth to his character because I thought there's no way this guy can be a leader and be this naive, and turns out he isn't. It was just, he knew it, but he let it happen.
He just hates the surface dwellers just as much as Orm, so it's like, well, I didn't need much.
Or at the very least, sees that there's an impending war and he better pick a side. So obviously he's going to
pick his side.
Yeah.
Right. He was aware that it was manipulation and he was fine with it because he was already on board.
At this point in the story, Mira has finally recruited Aquaman. They have kind of their own version of the Asgard Bridge here. The effects are fantastic, but on top of that, I really love the soundtrack on this film. I especially like the electronic route it takes when Mira's showing him Atlantis for the first time. They kind of go to this hidden air bubble in the ocean. Vulko's there, and we get a little bit of exposition that we need, and this is where he explains to Aquaman that the trident of the first Atlantean king is a real thing, and it's not a fable.
Yeah, and then, boom, goes the dynamite.
The clue to Atlan's final resting place is inside of this.
So wouldn't you know it, there was another explosion. I know that was a real shock. Arthur's then taken captive by some of the elite guard that's shown up, and then we're led to the throne room where he confronts his half-brother Orm for the first time. I love this scene because we get a quick glimpse of his strength, and they do it in a really cool way. He's being chained down by, I think, 5 different Atlantean guards, and one of them's really struggling to even hold him back because he's so strong. And Orm, of course, makes him so angry he eventually lunges at him. And he takes, you know, all 5 guards with them. And I love that because it shows that little bit of, there's some struggle already. So it makes sense when he lunges that he takes them all with him. I like that didn't just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, because there's not a ton of great, a whole heck of a lot of great ways to show Aquaman's awesome power. It's kind of hard to penetrate his skin, things of that nature. But there's not a ton of ways to demonstrate how strong he is underwater.
Really, all you can show is him punching people, and we've seen that a bunch of times. And the only other real thing they did, they mentioned that he helped take down Steppenwolf.
Why don't you come with me, little girl, on a magic carpet ride?
So you would have to assume he's got some pretty great power.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do in Aquaman 2. They're going to, like, body slam a whale or something?
Aquaman gets wrapped up in his anger and everything, and he ends up challenging Orm to a duel, not realizing all the rules and everything that's going to happen. The duel's really fun to watch, but he eventually, he loses. And so Orm breaks his trident in half, and that's their mother's trident. And so he's in this moment of pure anguish and despair. And I love the contrast between what he's going through in that moment, and then there's this huge crowd cheering. I I just thought it was a really strong moment. Mera, in general, she's not having any of this, and so she kind of comes to Aquaman's rescue.
She was great because she's kind of like, you know what, the hell with this princess stuff. I'm my own person. I'm going to go and do my thing. I'm going to walk my own path, march to the beat of my own drummer. I love that.
She saves Aquaman more than once, if I recall, and vice versa, so it's not an uneven thing. They help each other out. She's an independent person, but she's also a team player at the same time.
She had to sacrifice along that journey. I'm going to get all kind of backlash from my people and my father, who is the king, if I choose to go this way, and despite all that, she does it anyway. And then another person I want to throw in that ilk would be Aquamama. She had a lot of sacrifice in there as well, sacrificing the one man that she really did love, Aqua Daddy, and her firstborn son.
So now after this duel, Mera is escaping with Aquaman. It's pretty much kind of a treasure hunt movie, at least in the second act. They're trying to find the trident of the original Atlantean king because only the true heir can wield it. We're on to our next clue, so we're in a little small town, and I thought it was cool because we get to see Mera, her reactions to being on the surface world among people really for the first time. Then, of course, they find out this clue. They're ready to go to their next step, and what didn't you know? We have another explosion.
Shocker.
It's not bad for an imbecile, huh?
Not bad at all.
The fight sequences were pretty awesome. There's one scene in particular where one of the guard has his mask crushed or whatnot, and all the water comes out, and he has to stick his head in the toilet, which is kind of gross, but it was a kind of cool scene to see. I'm so glad the toilet was flushed. But yeah, I mean, it was a really cool scene, but I think that overall sequence went on just a tick too long. It was like, I'm a guy that really loves action sequences. I'm really into that kind of stuff, but it came to a certain point where it's like, okay, let's get back to the story now.
It went on a little too long, and I think it was a little bit needlessly destructive after a while.
That's true too.
There's too much going on for too long, probably. But for what it was, I thought it was entertaining and well choreographed for sure. I mean, a lot of work went into making it look great. I did really like how Black Manta was taken out. Not just the way he flew down this cliff or whatever, but the way it was filmed as he's rolling down the cliff. Now that Black Manta has been defeated, Aquaman and Mera are free to continue their journey. So they have a course now, and they're on their way to find the trident. And no one's ever been able to get it. They've all been found unworthy, and they've all died. He does find his mom again, and Mera's with him. He trusts their advice and their counsel, and then he also trusts their faith in him. So they buoy him up, no pun intended. They really help him realize you've got way more potential than you're giving yourself credit for. And he ends up having enough faith in them to believe that and go forward on the journey and do what he needs to do. I just really like the dynamic between these characters. And I love that right before Arthur goes in to face this creature and try to get the trident, he admits to his mother and to Mera that he's afraid.
The creature will only allow the true king to pass. You're afraid?
Yes.
Good. You're ready.
And I thought it was so cool to see this big, hulking, massive dude be able to admit that they're afraid.
In that particular moment, he's just unsure he's worthy of wielding the trident. Even though he understands that he is the rightful heir to the throne, he's just not sure he's worthy of it. So it works for me in a genuine sense, because I think that's how I would feel if I were in that particular situation.
It's a pretty outlandish thing he's having to do here.
Right.
Going on this treasure hunt to find this fabled trident and then prove you're the heir. There's a big sea creature.
Sea creatures! Help me! Head towards the mainland!
It's pretty fantastical stuff, but it works.
And that's why it's genuine to me, because that's the type of reaction I think would be natural in that situation.
Well, and I'm not going to sit here and say that Jason Momoa is the greatest actor ever or anything, but he's really good in this. You believe that he is this person. And I also thought it was really cool how when he goes to get the trident, there is a bit of a fight with the creature.
Sea creatures!
But ultimately, that's not how he gets the trident, by fighting. If he has to, he'll sacrifice everything to save the world, essentially.
Yes.
And that's what gets him the trident more than anything. We have a Arthur Curry who's grown. Now when he goes to face Orm, he's got a renewed strength. He's got a confidence he didn't have before.
Orm's plan to kind of bring all these different factions of the underwater world together to go against and invade the surface dwellers kind of backfired on him. and now we have this weird underwater civil war going on.
He goes to some of them and he doesn't get their cooperation, so he ends up murdering people. It all starts falling apart, and he's trying to hold it together and not working so well. There's the kind of crustacean crab type people, and they've got this gigantic tank-like crab creature.
Sea creatures! Help me! Head towards the mainland!
All kinds of crazy stuff going on. Yeah, it looked great. I was ready for some lemon and some butter sauce.
Yeah.
There's this huge underwater battle going on before Orm can even get everybody to go to the surface. And that's when Aquaman shows up in his new gear with the trident. And so that alone gets him loyalty from all these factions, especially the ones that were against Orm.
You got to remember, a lot of the people in those factions probably also thought the whole trident thing was a myth. Right. And he came with proof, like, hey, I'm the guy, I got it.
And this is where his power to talk to fish comes in handy. I mean, and it also helps with people believing he's the heir, because he comes in with this army of different fish and whatever, and all the sharks and the seahorse creatures they're riding all kind of start obeying him, you know? So they got, some of them probably didn't have a choice. It was kind of like, whoa, hey there, where am I going, you know? So it was really cool, though, and a really cool hero moment when he just appears and he's now going to save the world. But eventually that leads to him and Orm having a duel again and, you know, a face-off one more time. It's a really cool battle to watch, and Arthur, of course, defeats Orm. Doesn't kill him, though, shows him mercy. And I love this moment because a little bit earlier in the film, Orm finds out that Vulko has betrayed him because he's actually been helping Arthur, training him in the ways of the Atlantean army and things like that for years. Orm finds this out and he imprisons Vulko, and before he does that, he tells him, give him a room with a view. And I thought it was cool. Now we've got Vulko at the end of this duel giving the same line right back to Orm.
Vulko. Take him. But make sure he has a view.
When you're ready, let's talk.
But more importantly, for Orm's character, I think it's cool how he's not even angry that he says that to him. He kind of gets it. He kind of smirks at him and goes, kind of like, touche, you know, well played. Yeah. And then to follow up on that, Arthur says, you know, hey, brother, when you're ready, let's talk. And you get the sense that Orm, he may do that, actually. He may humble himself.
Yes, because there's a lot to digest if you're Orm. But yeah, if once you get to the point where you've absorbed everything that's transpired, you know, my plan pretty much just fell apart. My older brother really is the guy who was able to come back with the trident. Maybe I need to reassess. So maybe that is a conversation, like you say, he's willing to have in the future. It worked perfectly for me.
It makes me want to see the Ocean Master character come back in the next... I hope he's in the sequel.
Yeah, I can easily see him and Arthur teaming up in the future.
This film made me really excited to see another Aquaman film and also to see the DCEU continue.
Yeah, I hope it continues to improve the way it has.
So yeah, let's go ahead and sum up Aquaman.
Aquaman's a really great movie. I think it has that Saturday morning cartoon vibe to it. I was tempted to bust out a bowl of Captain Crunch and just start chowing down. This film did not benefit from the movies that came before it. So I really love that about Aquaman. It stands alone in its own right. I'm going to give Aquaman 4 out of 5 shiny bald heads.
I really like the Aquaman character. I really like Momoa in the role. I thought the casting of this film overall was really great. James Wan was the perfect director for this. There's lots of really great fun moments. It has some cheesy lines and dialogue, I think, that were unnecessary, but it doesn't take away from my overall enjoyment of the film. There's some really great transitions, some really great editing going on, just some really great direction. Got to give a lot of credit to all the people involved in this film. I think it's very well done and just really downright fun, and I would give it a 4.5 out of 5 shiny bald heads. That was our Aquaman review. We really hope you enjoyed it.
So join us next time, right here on this couch.
Last time on the couch, we reviewed Infinity War, so if you missed it, now's a great time to check it out. If you enjoy what we're doing, please hit that like button and subscribe to receive alerts when new videos are posted. Don't forget to click the bell icon. Thanks for joining us on the couch. Another on the couch in the bag.
Yeah, man. Another one for the history books. Gotta tell you, bro, that episode really did make me pretty hungry. Want to grab some food?
Yeah, maybe some seafood?
Yeah, it sounds great. How about some Red Lobster?
You thought you'd seen The Last of Us? Well, we're back, bitches! And oh, explosions keep happening. It's so predictable. You didn't see that explosion coming, now did ya?
And Amber Heard's hair is too red? What are you, stupid? Like you wouldn't still hit that. Man, get out of here.
Better be on your guard, Baldies. You never know when we'll be back. Come on, Skunk. I think we've made our point. Let's rock.
We're a kill skunk. We're a kill skunk. We're a kill skunk. We're a kill skunk. Sea creatures, head towards the mainland.